What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, CamATL, and welcome back to an NFL Final Look video for Week 3. In this video, as you guys all know, actually, hold on. Drop a like down below, comment anything in the comment section, and your name into the $50 giveaway I do every single week on this channel. And what was I saying? Yeah, so in this video, on the Final Look videos, I go in and we go position by position. Early on in the week, we built a first look lineup together. And now in this video, we go position by position, pretty much take our time. So prop your feet up, relax. We're going to go position by position, pretty much talk about all the players that are in play for me. And if you guys have any players that maybe I miss or don't touch on enough, comment down below and let me know. But I'm going to try to touch on everybody I'm pretty much interested in, give you guys a good grasp on this Week 3 slate, get you headed to the money. GreenlightDFS.com to join the squad. We got college football tomorrow. You do get that with the NFL package, so if you're able to play college football where you live, make sure you get your NFL weekend package before then. And yeah, let's get it. I'm not going to waste too much time, y'all. Let's start off at quarterback. So, as you can see, I got Kyler Murray at the very top. The only down thing about Kyler Murray in this position is that the game might not stay competitive enough. You know what I mean? A lot of times in these, if you're going to pay 8-3 for a guy, you kind of want him to be in a matchup where it's going to be a competitive game. That way he has to, be active and do a lot the entire game and not like take the second half off. So a lot of times, that can be an issue. But Kyler Murray has a solid floor still. If we end up having great value open up, I mean, there's still some injury news that we're still kind of waiting out. There's still some things that we, could, add some value and stuff into the slate. But as of right now, I haven't had a ton of Kyler Murray just because it doesn't entice me. This game doesn't really entice me when it comes to the Arizona side, just because of the game script and how I expect this game to go. I mean, Arizona's probably going to get up big, and it could be all Kyler Murray at the end of the day. But I mean, I like games to stay a little closer if I'm going to pay 8-3 for a guy. A guy that I do really like is Justin Herbert. I talked about it in the first look lineup. Justin Herbert at 6'5", going against this Kansas City secondary. It's a solid spot for Herbert, man. And this game right here is interesting. This is the game script that I talk about. This game is in Kansas City, so I expect the Chargers to have to throw a lot to keep up, and this is going to be an aired out game for Justin Herbert. And in these type of situations, this is where you want to target a quarterback in. So Justin Herbert is a fantastic option. I'm pretty sure I don't have to, go into great detail or go on forever about why Justin Herbert's in play against Kansas City. You already pretty much know, but I just wanted to touch on my few points. And you know how big I am about game script and how I expect a game to go, and that being a big impact on how I like to play things. And this is definitely a good spot for the Chargers offense, the passing attack. Ekeler, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Mike Williams. These guys are solid options this week going against Kansas City, where they should have to throw to keep up. Next up, Tom Brady's going against the Rams. Now, honestly, this is a game that I'm really interested in on both sides. My cat just busted in this room, dude. My cat can open doors. Pretty ridiculous. Uh, anyway, Tom Brady going against the Rams. This is a solid game right here. This is in a dome in that new beautiful stadium in Los Angeles. Tom Brady's 6'8". Tom Brady has been amazing. And I love the offense on the other side as well. I mean, I think this game is going to be a shootout. It's going to be a solid one, especially with Tampa Bay most likely missing Antonio Brown. That probably keeps the game a little closer that way, too. Not that Antonio Brown was going to break it loose and they were going to blow him out, but the Rams have been a solid team this year. I have become a Rams fan this year just solely off the way that the stadium is. I have to respect it. So I'm a Rams fan now because the stadium looks cool. But Tom Brady is in a decent spot. That Rams defense is solid. Tampa Bay's defense coming into the year, we expected to be really solid too, but they've been giving it up, man. I mean, they gave it up to my Falcons offense, and the Falcons offense is one of the worst offenses in the entire league right now. So, both sides, I expect to score here. There are some Rams guys that I really, really like in this game, and I'll touch on them as we get to those positions. But yeah, in cash games especially, Tom Brady's pretty much a lock for 20 most times, and so he's pretty safe. If you just want to make sure you get a guy that's not going to like burn you super hard, Tom Brady's a guy at 6'8" that probably won't do that to you. Lamar Jackson. So, all right. So Lamar's got a sickness he's dealing with right now. I expect him to play on Sunday though. Going against Detroit, I mean the matchup could not be any better here. The matchup against Detroit is fantastic. Detroit's been giving it up to every single position. The Water Boys are dropping 30 plus DraftKings points against Detroit. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So they're bad. Okay. This game is in a dome in Detroit. Lamar Jackson is going to do major damage here on the ground. The only issue is just kind of like the Kyler Murray thing that I talked about. I don't have problems with these guys. If you land and you have the money, then sure, they both feel incredibly safe. The only down part is the upside's kind of capped in my opinion because I don't expect the game to stay close. Now, with that being said though, if either of these games stay close, like if Detroit keeps it close with Baltimore or Jacksonville keeps it close with Arizona, both these guys have crazy upside. Crazy high upside because of what they can do on their feet. But Lamar Jackson at 7-8, he gives us a discount of what, 500 off Kyler Murray, and that matchup is beautiful. So yeah, I like Lamar Jackson in cash, GPP, whatever. I'm cool with him, but just keep in mind there is that chance that Baltimore destroys Detroit and they don't really push Lamar too much and don't make him do too much crazy shit here. But with the game being in Detroit, I could see a scenario where the game stays close and Lamar does a ton of damage here. So yeah, I like Lamar. I'm gonna end it at that. I do like Lamar. Okay. At 7K, Josh Allen. Now, in my builds, I have not had a ton of Josh Allen, but I can understand liking Josh Allen. He's at home in Buffalo, going against Washington. Josh Allen gives you that solid floor with his feet. He's in a solid spot here. I could see him kind of having a coming out party and having a solid game here. This is a guy that I relied on heavily last year multiple times just because of what he can do with his rushing ability. So his first couple games have been really mediocre, 18 and 17. But I mean, at 7K, that might be okay. You know what I mean? But he also has big upside too. With him having a couple mediocre games to start the year, this might be his coming out party here against Washington. Like I said, I have not had him in a ton of lineups because he's 7K, and then right here you got Herbert at 6'5", Brady at 6'8", so you got a couple guys underneath them, and Daniel Jones at 5'8", who I obviously love. That it makes it hard for me to go Josh Allen when I have a bunch of really solid options around there cheaper as well. Who else? Yeah, let's talk about Danny Dimes real quick. Daniel Jones, put him in the first look lineup. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because obviously I like him. He's going against Atlanta. He's at home in New York. This is a solid spot. You have to expect eventually this Atlanta offense to at least click a little bit better and get things a little bit better going offensively and keep the games competitive. And, this might be a spot here that's a good one here for Daniel Jones. All right, Daniel Jones, what he's been doing on the ground, he's like taking that rushing floor from Josh Allen and he's running with it. Like this dude's like the new Josh Allen this year. He's really tearing it up. He got 95 rushing yards against Washington last week. Which is another plus for Josh Allen. They're going to give Daniel Jones 95 rushing yards. I mean, Josh Allen could go for 100. You know what I mean? But that was due to one big broken bad defensive play by Washington that he broke for like 60. But Daniel Jones at home against Atlanta, great position. Atlanta's been giving it up, man. Tom Brady over 30, Jalen Hurts over 28. So yeah, it's a great spot. And Danny Jones for cash games is still the guy that I'm really sticking to, and I really really like him this week. Who else do I want to talk about? Obviously, there's some obvious guys in here if you have the money you can land on. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson. If you have the money, you can land on those guys, and I'm not going to fault you for any of them. I'm not going to sit here and try to give you too much advice on the studs that if you have them, if you can play them, why not? If I had to choose, probably Lamar is at the top of my list here because of how much damage he could really do against Detroit here, and that price is 7-8. Probably Lamar, but yeah, value-wise, Danny Jones is the guy that really sticks out to me. I gotta talk about my boy Stafford because what a year this dude's been having, man. He loves having Cooper Kupp there. Matthew Stafford is going against Tampa Bay that gave up over 22 to Matt Ryan, who seems to have a noodle arm at this point in his career. Matt Ryan can't really throw past 20 yards, and he still got over 22 DraftKings points against Tampa Bay. Dak crushed them for over 31. Stafford has looked incredible. Okay, he has looked really, really good, man. He's got some really solid weapons here. He's loving it here in Los Angeles. It's at home in a dome. You guys know I love to say that, and I mean it because in a dome is such a bump to quarterbacks. I always love that. But yeah, Matthew Stafford, you can do worse than Matthew Stafford at 6'4". Really, really like him as well going against Tampa Bay. This is a game where, like I said, this is a game where the game should stay competitive. Both sides should continue to have to throw the ball. And Stafford's got some amazing targets that I already have locked pretty much. At least one of his targets is already locked, in my opinion. So really like Matthew Stafford here at 6'4" at home as well, and a very good game against Tampa Bay. I'm excited to watch that game as well. So I will be heartbroken if I don't have much in it. So I might just force some Rams and Tampa Bay into my lineup because that game at 3:25 is Central is going to be the game of the week probably. Who else? We've got Teddy Bridgewater. Let's talk about Teddy real quick. Before the year started, you wouldn't like I would have never guessed that I'd be talking about Teddy Bridgewater here week 3, but I mean you got to. How can you not? 20 DraftKings points against the Giants week 1, 24 against Jacksonville week 2. Teddy Bridgewater's going against the Jets. They did a solid job against the rookie Mac Jones last week, but they gave up over 20 to Sam Darnold the week before that. But that's not too bad. Like they haven't seemed too bad against the pass so far this year. But Teddy Bridgewater's 5'8". The only reason I'm not really interested here, I just wanted to talk about him because of how he's played so far this year, 20 and 24. He's been pretty solid and he's looked really good. But Danny Jones right there at that price, I mean, you don't really want much Teddy Bridgewater at that point. Who else deserves to be talked about here? Let's talk about Jared Goff. Let's talk about Goff because just like I said, the little bit of the issue is with Lamar is I expect Baltimore to get up here and Goff to have to throw a lot. This is once again at home in a dome, and you're getting a guy at 5'2" who got 32 against San Francisco and 20 against Green Bay. He's airing it out, and this is a Baltimore defense that gave up over 28 to Mahomes and Derek Carr. So Jared Goff is in a solid spot to get you at least 20, and at 5'2", that might be all you need. At home in Detroit, I really like this spot for him here in the Dome. The only game he's played in the Dome this year so far, super small sample size, so don't hold me to it. But against San Francisco, he did get 32 and passed for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, yeah. So Jared Goff is a solid option here, and they should be behind throwing a shit ton in this game. All right. Anybody else? Let's talk about the future best quarterback in the entire league, Justin Fields, who is going to be getting the start. If you guys have watched any of my box breaks, this is the rookie quarterback that I've been trying to get rookie cards from, because I feel he's got major potential. He's an incredibly smart quarterback. He scored really high on the IQ tests and stuff coming into the league. 5'2" is really cheap for a guy that can give you a solid rushing floor. Okay, he rushed for 31 rushing yards against Cincinnati last week. Didn't get a touchdown, nothing like that, but he didn't play a shit ton. But he got 60 yards passing. He rushed for 31 yards, but that's the thing here. He's getting the whole start here going against the Cleveland squad. They gave up over 36 to Pat Mahomes, over 16 to Tyrod Taylor before Taylor got hurt. Justin Fields is going to give you a solid floor rushing, okay? I expect at least 60 rushing yards here against Cleveland. And if he can get in the end zone a couple times, 5'2" is going to pay off in a big way here for Justin Fields. So I wanted to mention him because Cleveland in no way has been shutting motherfuckers down. So Justin Fields here at 5'2", I love his rushing ability, and he could really do damage here, all right? Because, I mean, honestly, any quarterback like Fields who can throw the ball accurately, can go deep, can, tear you up on the ground. I mean, it's hard for defenses to game plan for this. And with this being kind of his first start coming in, they don't really have much to go off of outside of, looking at the little bit they saw during the preseason and the little bit they saw in this last game. So Justin Fields is in a good spot here. And he's a smart kid. He should come in well prepared. And I think he's a solid option at 5'2". All right. Let's switch over to running back. All right. At the running back position. So, at the top of my love list, I have Dalvin Cook going against Seattle. So, Dalvin Cook missed the practice, this last practice, with a little bit of an ankle soreness. He's expected to play, though, so I'm not too worried about it. He is 8'4", so you're paying a premium for Dalvin Cook. But this is a Seattle team that just gave up over 50 to King Henry. And that's just crazy. They gave up over almost 18 to Jonathan Taylor week 1. And they gave up over 50 to Derrick Henry week 2. This is another good game. I expect this game to be a good one. The only thing you worry about a little bit here is Seattle has been really solid, and you expect maybe Seattle can get up here against Minnesota and make it so Minnesota's not giving Dalvin that 20-something carries. But No matter what, it seems like they're going to feed Dalvin as much as they possibly can, and if they're not able to hand him the ball in the backfield, they're going to throw it to him somehow. So Dalvin Cook got 7 targets week 1 against Cincinnati. That is a good sign there. So I expect over 5 targets once again for Dalvin Cook in the pass game here with them going against Seattle, and I expect him to get at least like 18 carries or so. So Dalvin Cook should be a solid option this week. Tyson Williams. I've had a lot of people hit me up about Williams. Some people love Tyson Williams. Some people are worried about him. I'm kind of in the middle here about this one. It doesn't feel fantastic, but the matchup is there. This is a Detroit team that just gave up over 41 DraftKings points to Aaron Jones. This is in a dome. Solid spot for Tyson Williams in a favored game where Baltimore should be up. He should get a good bit of carries. The question is he going to get the carries? You know, they've got a lot of mouths that they're trying to feed there in Baltimore. For some reason, they just won't go with one guy and say, you know what, this is our guy, and then give Latavius Murray like 5 carries and whatever. Just be real low on that. Like, give Latavius like 3 to maybe 5 carries during the game, and then just give it to our boy Williams predominantly throughout the game and run that thing 15 plus times. Like 13 carries out of him. This dude has been highly efficient with his carries. 9 carries against the Las Vegas, and he got 65 rushing yards in those 9 carries. Against Kansas City, he got 13 carries, 77 rushing yards. This dude is highly efficient with the carries he's getting. And imagine him getting 20 carries one game. He's going to go crazy. So against Detroit, I have to mention him. Tyson Williams at 5'8" is a solid option here. All right. Now let's talk about the guy that I already know everybody is probably talking about, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 4'8". So I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the simple fact that game script should be in his favor, number one. Number two, the price is crazy at 4.8. It is a low price at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and going Helaire, a guy who should get an okay amount of carries here, at least 15 carries in this game. Going with a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire opens up a lot for your lineups. I have landed on him a lot of times just because he really makes my lineup extra sexy, but I can see a scenario. It just keeps going through my head. It wakes me up at night seeing that scenario where Clyde Edwards-Helaire once again busts. And this could be that typical spot where everybody's like, oh my God, that price, you have to lock him in. And he ends up getting 5. You know what I mean? And it annoys everyone. I can see it happening. You know what I mean? But at that price, I can't fault you, man. If you can avoid that, then cool. Because if it does bust, then you're avoiding heavy chalk that ends up busting. But at 4.8, a starting running back 4.8, good matchup in what should be a favored situation at home. I mean, you got a lot of box checked for Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a good play. All right. Another guy down there at that price range. Let's go ahead and stick with the value. Cordarrelle Patterson. Patterson got 7 targets in the pass game last week. 7 carries in the he's not getting a ton of carries. They're really wanting to give that to Mike, but Cordarrelle Patterson is a guy that if they can consistently start targeting this dude in the pass game, it's going to be good. All right. I mean, he got targeted multiple times. He got in the end zone twice. They targeted him in the red zone, so that was a good sign. And at 4.6, a guy who's going to get targeted in the red zone, and if Atlanta is behind, like if you're playing Danny Jones lineups, if Atlanta is behind and they're having to throw it, Cordarrelle Patterson could have a good game here. So yeah, I wanted to mention him. Who else? Najee Harris against Cincinnati. Honestly, we got lucky as hell getting 19 out of Najee last week. Everybody was like, "Oh, play Najee." Even me, I was like, "Look, man, that fucking snap count is ridiculous. Dude's playing 100% of snaps. How could you not love him in this matchup against Las Vegas?" He ended up doing okay at getting 19, but he got lucky getting there, man. Oh my goodness. Like most of that time I was pissed off all early on Sunday because he was sucking. He came out of nowhere and started doing okay, but if it wasn't for that little streak, that little hot patch where he got that touchdown, I mean, he would have busted hard. No homo. He got 10 carries. 10 carries is all he got last week. All right, they ended up losing to Las Vegas, but Najee Harris, I mean, with that snap count that he's getting, I'm expecting one of these days for him to bust out, but he just has not looked great. Let's be real. He has not looked great, man. All right, he's not as efficient as Tyson Williams, a guy like Tyson Williams has been. He just has not been very efficient. He's got a much higher snap count, and that in turn gives him the ability to shine, but he has not been super efficient between the tackles. Saquon Barkley. Let's talk about Saquon. Saquon Barkley against Atlanta. So, he is practicing. He's looking good to go. His snap count has been rising. He played 84% last week. He's got a great matchup here. But that offensive line is his only weakness here. That offensive line lost 2 starters to season-ending injuries early on, and it's hard. Like, he just doesn't have a ton of time, man. And then he's got the best running quarterback in all of the league, Daniel Jones, as well. So it's like, you know, I don't know. Saquon Barkley should be a solid option at 6'5". I could see him having a big game, but with that offensive line being how it is, it's really going to take him really shining hard on his own and doing it independently, because that line's not going to help him much. And that's the one down part about Daniel Jones as well, is that line's not great. But luckily for them, that defense for Atlanta is not intimidating whatsoever. They can throw the water boy out there. You know, they can throw they could throw like the coach's grandma out there to play on the offensive line and probably still hold Atlanta from getting a sack. You know what I mean? So it's all right. Anyway, Austin Ekeler. Let's talk about Ekeler. I'm going to talk about a few more guys. Austin Ekeler going against Kansas City. Great spot here, man. I mean, it was fantastic to see the 10 targets in the pass game last week after week 1, him getting 0. He got 0 targets in the week 1 against Washington. Then he got 10 targets against Dallas, 9 catches, 61 reception yards, as well as 9 carries, 54 rushing yards. He was efficient with his carries. This is a fantastic spot for Ekeler, man. Regardless of how this game goes, he's going to get involved, and I expect him to get involved heavily here in the pass game even. So at 7-2, Austin Ekeler is a fantastic option. If you want to save off of Dalvin Cook to go like Austin Ekeler, I completely understand. That's a $1,200 savings, and with full point PPR, with the way that this game's expected to go, Austin Ekeler could have a big breakout game in this one. I would not be surprised whatsoever. Last year against Kansas City, I mean, actually, since 2018, Austin Ekeler has gotten 23, 24, 17, 18, 17. His lowest performance since 2018 was 17 Draftkings points against Kansas City. All right, and with them being behind here, I like this spot here a lot. All right, so Austin Ekeler should get some good targets in the pass game. Probably reach that 8 to 10 mark again, especially if they are behind. I mean, sometimes crazy shit happens. Chargers could end up being up 21-0 at halftime, but at the same time, then he's going to get rushes between the tackles then. So it's fine that way too. So Austin Ekeler's a guy who feels really safe for cash games and full point PPR and DK especially. King Henry going against the Colts. I have to talk about him because he just dropped a 50. I haven't had a ton of them because when it comes to spend up running backs, I've been more into Dalvin Cook. But Derrick Henry here is always in play. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, dude. Honestly. Yeah, if you have the money, why not? Last guy I'm going to talk about, Chris Carson. All right, Chris Carson is going against Minnesota, 6'4". This is another dude who, is going to get some solid usage here. He's going to get that 15-plus carries. He's going to get those carries in the red zone. He was extremely efficient week 1 against the Colts, getting 91 rushing yards on 16 carries, which is a good sign for Derrick Henry as well against that same defense. Because Derrick Henry's going to get 30 touches. He got 35 carries against Seattle. That is crazy. Anyway, he's going to see 20-plus easily, Derrick Henry, so he could go off against the Colts. So I understand GPP. Dalvin Cook's probably higher owned. I understand going Derrick Henry GPP. But Chris Carson against Minnesota, solid option here. They gave up over 28 to Joe Mixon, so you got to love Chris Carson at 6'4". It's just a guy that I wanted to mention as well. My favorite options, Austin Ekeler, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at that price, Tyson Williams, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, probably right around there. Those guys. All right. Wide receiver. Now, there's a couple things I want to talk about first. Antonio Brown has to test. Well, first of all, hold on. Let me do that. Let me just lock this dude in because if he can. I guess he can't be locked in. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. Anyway, Cooper Kupp is locked. Okay, I'm playing Cooper Kupp every single week. If you want to get off the masses and not play Cooper Kupp, and you want to go a lower owned version, Keenan Allen is fine at 6'6". He's going to get a lot of targets here against Kansas City. But let's talk about this situation in Tampa Bay. With Antonio Brown out with COVID, he did test positive for COVID-19. He is expected to miss. He's most likely out on Sunday. That means there are options there for Tampa Bay that I really, really like. And the first guy I want to talk about is Chris Godwin at 6'1". Chris Godwin at 6'1" is a solid option here. I do not expect too much Jalen Ramsey here against Godwin. I don't expect that. I expect Ramsey to be more on Mike Evans. I'll pull up some information about that real quick so I can kind of look at what I'm expecting and how I'm expecting that matchup to go here for this game. Because this is a big game that I'm wanting exposure to. So I'm going to bring up my my wide receiver chart real quick and talk about what I'm liking here. So in this game, on the Tampa Bay side with Antonio Brown out, Chris Godwin predominantly lines up out of the slot. So you're not going to see Jalen Ramsey against Chris Godwin this week. All right, Ramsey's not going to line up against him in the slot most likely. I mean, this year so far, actually, he has played a good bit in the slot, which is pretty surprising. I would expect him to play on the outside against Mike Evans here, but if that in fact is going to be the case, I'm going to look more into that. I would be surprised to see Ramsey run out. So far this year, though, he has ran 50%. He has covered 50% out of the slot so far this year. So that is surprising to say the least. But Chris Godwin's going to get a bump here with no Antonio Brown. With that, in fact, the case, though, if Ramsey, in fact, is going to be in the slot covering Chris Godwin, Mike Evans is going to be fantastic on the outside going against the 5'11" David Long for the Rams. This is a difference of 6'5" compared to 5'11". The size difference is huge for Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a solid option at 6'3". I expect this game to be a good one and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. No Antonio Brown. Expect Mike Evans to really shine here in that matchup. I'm going to do more research on this. I am surprised to see that Jalen Ramsey's been running a lot of his coverage out of the slot, which is very surprising to me. But yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on that. Wherever Ramsey ends up being, if Ramsey ends up being on Mike Evans, I love Chris Godwin. If Ramsey is going to, in fact, be in the slot against Godwin, I'm loving Mike Evans. So I'll do more research on that and maybe give y'all a better input on it. I'll probably go live again tomorrow night or something. I'll do another live show tomorrow night or something like that to kind of, go into that situation a little more. But yeah, Mike Evans is a solid option, especially if Ramsey's going to cover out of the slot, which looks like predominantly he's done so far this year. That's crazy. 50% of the time he's been lined up in the slot. Wow. That might be because he's following the team they're playing against as number one. Who did the Rams play last week? The Colts. Right? The Colts. And Pascal had a solid game. But yeah, Ramsey was on Pascal. Pascal got lucky with it, one touchdown. But yeah, I'll look into that situation. Let's talk about some other guys. But with Antonio Brown out, that's definitely a bump. Cooper Kupp locked. If you play Lamar Jackson, I understand liking Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown was back to practice today. He has been fantastic, man. I mean, he's been great. 19 and 26 the first couple games of the year. Now he's going against Detroit that gave up over 35 to Deebo Samuel, over 23 to Devontae Adams. Marquise Brown could go off once again. And 5'6", they're just not adjusting his price for how elite he's been this year. So Marquise Brown paired up with Lamar Jackson is a solid pairing this week. Next up, Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard, solid option at 5'9", especially if you got Danny Dimes lineups. 27 and 17, he's been fantastic. I'm not going to take up too much time here. I've already talked about Sterling Shepard in the first look. Love him. Talked about Keenan Allen briefly. Keenan Allen playing from behind against Kansas City. You saw what Marquise Brown did against them. I expect a huge game out of Keenan Allen here. I expect the biggest game that he's had so far this year, this week, against the Chiefs. So I really like that spot here for him. Let's see. Any wide receiver matchups that really stick out to me? Let's see. So for the Rams, I want to mention in that Tampa Bay Los Angeles game, right? Darius Williams has struggled this year. He has been targeted over 29% of routes. of the passing plays. He is getting targeted a lot. He's getting targeted 29%. So a lot of these teams are targeting his side of the field, and he is supposed to go against Antonio Brown this week. Whoever's taking Antonio Brown's slot there on the outside is probably going to have a field day here. So I want to mention that as well, because you're probably going to get a value guy playing that right side. Antonio Brown runs predominantly of his routes on the right side of the field, which is where he would face up against Darius Williams. Whoever's taking Antonio Brown's spot and running their routes on the right side will have a field day against Darius Williams, who's gotten destroyed. Who else has gotten pretty destroyed? You got Tre'Davious White for Buffalo, who will probably be shadowing Terry McLaurin. These are just some keys that I'm trying to give you guys some little extra things to think about, all right? If you want to write this stuff down while I go over it. But Tre'Davious White is a solid cornerback. He's going to be shadowing Terry McLaurin. With him shadowing Terry McLaurin, I still expect McLaurin to do okay, but the guy to target here would be Levi Wallace on the other end. So Dyami Brown could have a good game here. Dyami Brown is going to predominantly see Levi Wallace, who's been targeted 27% of the time. Let's talk about this Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game. If Deontay Johnson misses, y'all. If Deontay Johnson misses, Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have a huge game. Let me explain why. Mike Hilton has gotten torn apart this season. The slot cornerback for Cincinnati has gotten torn apart this season. He is getting targeted 29% of the time, which is one of the highest on the entire slate. I'm going to get to another couple spots where it's bad too, but Mike Hilton has gotten targeted a ton. Add on to the fact Deontay Johnson being out and more targets being there, Juju Smith-Schuster runs over 80% of his routes out of the slot. Juju's going to have a big game here. Love Juju Smith-Schuster at 6K, especially if Deontay, in fact, does miss with that knee issue. All right? What other spots are we wanting to take advantage of? Let's see. Some really bad ones. Las Vegas, Trayvon Mullen, outside cornerback, predominantly on the left side. He's going to see a lot of Will Fuller. We don't know 100% the snap count we're going to see out of Will Fuller here, but Will Fuller is expected to be back with this team. Will Fuller also has huge upside. We know that. Let's pull Fuller up. Will Fuller is 4'7". He does have the backup quarterback throwing him the ball, so that's a downgrade. That's not great to hear, but Trayvon Mullen is the guy who would be lined up against him majority of the time, and Mullen's been targeted a shit ton. All right, Mullen is being targeted. I talked about the other guys recently. Mullen has been targeted 31% of the time. So that means offenses has realized this dude can't hold that receiver. We're going to purposely target his side over and over and over because he can't stop shit. And Trayvon Mullen, which once again is the right cornerback for Los Angeles, who will be facing the left wide receiver, which is Will Fuller majority of the time. That's a fantastic spot for him. So, but Will Fuller snap count's a little iffy, so I don't know about playing him. Maybe GPP would be slick. All right, Kansas City Charger game. We've talked about this game multiple times. The outside cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. has struggled this season, getting targeted 31% of the time. Who is going to match up against him? Cheetah. Now, this is a spot where Tyreek Hill could absolutely destroy. Okay? Like, I have to mention Tyreek because in GPPs, this dude could put up the most points in the entire slate. Okay? Especially if the game stays close. Asante Samuel is being targeted 31% of the time. He lines up on the side of the field that he's going to see a ton of Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek Hill moves around a good bit from the slot to the outside, from the slot to the outside. When he's in the slot against Chris Harris, he might have a little bit of a struggle. But he's so fast, Chris Harris cannot keep up anyway. So regardless, when he sees Asante Samuel on the outside, Tyreek Hill is going to burn that dude. So pay attention to that because Tyreek Hill could have a huge game taking that mismatch fully. The outside cornerbacks for Tennessee, Christian Fulton and Janoris Jenkins have gotten lit up. Fulton's targeted 28%. Janoris Jenkins targeted 26%. Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman Jr. are going to be benefactors of that on the Colts. All right, let me talk about a few more guys that I want to talk about. So, the slot cornerback for Chicago has struggled big time too, getting targeted 30% of the time. That is going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to see a bump there. He runs majority of his routes on the slot. You have Odell Beckham possibly being back. Pay attention to that. If Odell misses too, Peoples-Jones is going to be amazing. Because he's got a fantastic matchup in that slot against Duke Shelley. So pay attention to that situation. Odell Beckham is going to be an okay play against Jalen Johnson, but Duke Shelley has been bad in the slot. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, I want to mention him as well. He's not a big name. What's his price? He's just a cheap guy at bare min 3K that could possibly turn up for you with no Jarvis Landry already ruled out. Jarvis already ruled out, and Odell Beckham coming back from injury. So we'll see what happens there. But Donovan Peoples-Jones in GPP is solid. There's one more spot I want to talk about, and that's Cleveland's outside cornerback Denzel Ward has been targeted 31% of the time this year, and that's going to be Marquise Goodwin that he's going to see a lot of. I'm not. If you're playing Justin Fields, you want to pair him with somebody, pairing him with Marquise Goodwin or Allen Robinson in the slot or something like that. But Troy Hill has been really solid in the slot, so that's another bump to Marquise Goodwin, honestly. Let's pull up Marquise Goodwin. Especially if you're playing Justin Fields. Marquise Goodwin's 3-2. This is another cheap guy that could get some decent output this week. Allen Robinson obviously is their best wide receiver on Chicago. All right, but Troy Hill has been lights out in the slot this year. He's only getting targeted 10% of the time, so defenses aren't even trying to go towards his way this year. They are going towards Denzel Ward though. So Marquise Goodwin with Allen Robinson maybe possibly having some trouble with Troy Hill in the slot. Maybe not getting a target at a ton because of that. Marquise Goodwin might shine here, playing on the perimeter, and I really like him matched up with Denzel Ward here. All right. Anybody else? Let's talk about Rondale Moore to end off wide receivers, and then I'll go on. With 35 minutes I've been on. Rondale Moore, 5K. Running out of the slot, had a big game last week. He will be seeing a lot of Tyson Campbell, which is a very beneficial matchup here. Tyson Campbell gets targeted 31% of the time. Rondale Moore is in a fantastic spot. DeAndre Hopkins is a little banged up. So, yeah, Rondale Moore is in a solid spot here out of the slot. I called A.J. Green last week. Remember, or was it the week before last? And he ended up going off with the matchup he had. I think it was last week. And he ended up having a solid game. I'm calling Rondale Moore for another back-to-back solid weekend. Rondale Moore is 5K, though, so I don't love the price. But, yeah, the matchup's there. All right, let's move on. Tight ends. I spent a lot of time at wide receiver, but I really wanted to break it down a little bit for y'all. So I still am all over TJ Hockenson against Baltimore with that game script. Hawkinson's been targeted so much. He's a fantastic option. Kyle Pitts seems to be growing a little bit of rapport with Matt Ryan, so he's a solid option as well. Tyler Higbee for the Rams. Like I said, this game should be a solid game. Tampa Bay's has not been great versus tight ends, so Tyler Higbee could be a solid option as well. We know how much Las Vegas loves to target Darren Waller. As long as Vegas doesn't get up and smack Miami with their backup quarterback in, he's a solid position. Obviously, Kelsey's going to be in play. So there's a good bit of tight end options this week. I like a good bit of guys. For the most part, I'm liking Tyler Higbee, Jared Cook in that game, and then the studs, Kelsey, Waller, Hockenson. Really love Hockenson this week. I think he's going to go crazy. Plus, Baltimore struggled against tight end this year. Defense-wise, so there's multiple spots you could go. I really like the Cardinals here. I expect the Cardinals to, even though it's in Jacksonville, I really like the Cardinals at 3K because the Cardinals should get up pretty easily here and force Trevor Lawrence to possibly make mistakes trying to catch up and throw a lot. So I like the Cardinals defense here. Who else? Solid options this week. I could go with a lot of the Patriots are probably going to cause problems for Jameis Winston. They're a solid option. I'm not going to play much of the Buccaneers. I'm going to drop that projection. I don't want much Buccaneers popping in optimal lineups. The Browns defense against Justin Fields, I completely understand it. Fields is probably going to make a mistake or two in this game. They're a solid option as well. Let's see. What else? Anybody else really stick out? The Jets against Denver, maybe. The Bengals defense is only 2-1, but I like some Pittsburgh. I like Juju a lot this week, dude. If Deontay Johnson misses, I'm playing like 98% Juju Smith-Schuster this week. That's about it, though. I mean, Defense, I don't like to spend too much time on because I don't really give a shit. I mean, y'all can just play pretty much whatever you feel like playing. I mean, I do like Cardinals at 3K. Um, I do like the Patriots. I do like the Browns. All right, so that's all I'll say there. Thank you guys for watching. We almost went 40 minutes in this final look. Golly. Anyways, I hope I was able to help. I hope I touched on some points for y'all to help y'all, be in good spots to succeed this week. I'm excited for this week, man. Let's get it. We're due on these main slates, man. We need a big main slate W for the squad this week. Greenlightdfs.com to join the squad. Greenlightbets.com to join the squad for bets if you're in a state that can bet on games like money lines and shit like that. Hit up greenlightbets.com and let's get it. Peace out, y'all.